A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night as usual. Thank you all for joining me. Well, what an international break it's been so far, hey? Going to talk about the internationals just briefly, well, related to West Ham, of course, and also look at all the issues that we've kind of got because of the international break, especially with the issues of team selection and injuries. So I'm going to go into that a little bit later on and sort of talk about what David Moyes may be doing or may be able to do in order to overcome the injuries that we've got. A lot of you are speculating, a lot of you are immediately saying, well, of course, he's going to be picking Danny Ings and you're already going bananas because of that, when we don't really know what options David Moyes really have. We don't really know what choices David Moyes will make rather than options. He's got options, and I'm going to look at those a little bit later on. But let's go into the chat because I can see there are quite a few comments already to start the evening off. Because last week when I started the show, I completely forgot to say hello to everybody, didn't I? So good evening to you all. Good evening to the moderators. Good evening to all you viewers, subscribers, etc. Thank you for watching on a Monday night. Let's go all the way to the top. Good evening to you, Matt. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. If Mike is out, Mbama must at least come off the bench. Ings, Bowen or Kudus is up front. Let's talk about that, mate, and look at the options that I'm sure Moyes is already considering, because let's not forget, not only do we have Antonio out, we could have Bowen out. I'll bring you an update on that in a moment. And of course, he might have to make a decision on the Czech player as well, Coufal, because Coufal, of course, did something a bit silly over the weekend, didn't he? By going out clubbing in between international games. I wonder how David Moyes is going to view that and what decision he might make on Coufal and whether he actually picks him. Let's just adjust this mic because it might be coming across as a bit too loud. Hopefully that's better. John, good evening to you. I have a feeling Moyes will play either Ings, Kudus or Paquetá up top alone before he even thinks about a two with Mbama. Should have replaced Scamacca as soon as he was sold. Well, yes, look, it isn't for the want of trying, to be quite honest with you. And I've been reading stuff over the weekend about someone was actually pointing the finger at the technical director, you know, sort of saying, well, what's he been up to? Why didn't he go out and get us a striker during the summer? It's not for the want of trying. You know, we were doing quite well with our summer signings, and I think a lot of fans were saying that if we'd signed a striker, it would have been like a 10 out of 10 in regards to the window. But Tim Stein, you know, it wasn't for the lack of trying. He wasn't just flying off in his private jet, bringing over midfielders only. I mean, I think he had strikers in mind as well. But it seems that we couldn't get a striker over the line. There were a few strikers that we spoke about during the summer, and they're coming up again, aren't they? Solanke from Bournemouth. I don't think that's a goer, to be quite honest with you. And I would question whether a decent player, but I would question whether he would take us to the next level. I think he'll be a very much like an Antonio type of player. But is that what we want? You know, we're all talking about David Moyes leaving at the end of the season. So do we want to stuck with a player that's in the sort of in the same mould as Antonio? Do we not want to do something different? I don't know. It's interesting, and I know there's one or two other Timo Werner, who used to be at Chelsea, now playing back in the Bundesliga. There's rumours about him, but I'm not going to speculate about who we might get in until closer to the January transfer window. I'm going to bore the tears off you all with all the links that we're going to be connected to, all the players that we're apparently going to sign in the January window. So we'll wait for that to come. Two with Mbama. I think I've got a different theory with a two up front, but it doesn't necessarily include Mbama. I want to try and get his name right because people were having a go at me for not being able to pronounce his name. Ralph, good evening to you. John, he should have treated Scamacca better and he probably would have been still here. Do you know what? I'll be very honest. I remember when we signed Scamacca, I was excited, like most of us were, but I did question, you know, I repeat myself and I do apologise, but the same things in my mind come over and over. I did question at the time, wasn't Scamacca a lot more similar to Sebastian Haller than Mikel Antonio. And if that was the case, what were we thinking of changing our formation to accommodate Scamacca? Because he certainly wasn't going to play in the Antonio style of way. And I don't think he would have still been here. Yes, maybe if he'd have been treated better, but I just don't think West Ham United suited Scamacca, and Scamacca didn't suit West Ham. And I still maintain to this day, in my mind, Haller was a much better striker, is a much better striker than Scamacca. So I wasn't really that upset that he left. Yes, I wanted there to be a replacement, but I wasn't like, oh my God, what are we going to do without Scamacca? I don't think it worked too well. And good evening to you anyway, mate. So I hope you're well. John again. Every striker we have had under Moyes, whose strengths are to play as a two, he throws them up there on their own, watches them sink to a shadow of the player they were before. Yeah, that's a good point. A very good point. We know that the players. I mean, this is the other concern about why did we buy Scamacca? What was the recommendation and what was the scout report to make David Moyes think that Scamacca was going to be a good choice? Because it just wasn't. It wasn't going to be a match made in heaven. So I don't know what he was thinking he was going to get out of Scamacca, to be quite honest with you, because he certainly wasn't the style of player that we wanted at the time. Good evening, Steve. I hope you're well. Moyes said in the summer, we don't need a striker. I will go with that, what we have. If Bowen out for a while, we all know it's Ings up top at Burnley. I now fear for us. I don't think it is Ings at Burnley. I saw your message. Well, I replied to your message earlier in the day, mate. But I'm not sure. There are other options that I think we can go for if Bowen is out. And it wasn't that Moyes said, I don't need a striker. It's like if we can't get the one we wanted or something like that. But we were looking. But yet you're right. When it comes to strikers and David Moyes, they don't quite meet eye to eye, do they? Kalispera, Keith, I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Let's scroll down. Who else do we have? Steve again. If as reported, Antonio may be out for up to 9 months, I think we may not see him in a West Ham shirt again, because when he's back fit, he will be 34. I'm going to talk a little bit about him later on, give you the update that I've got. It's not a lot different, to be quite honest with you. Why so late? Because I wanted you all to finish enjoying the international football. What a bore fest it was. You know what? If it wasn't for all the injuries, I don't think I would have done a show tonight, because I'm not going to talk about the games. I was kind of like doing my script and getting the images together and all that sort of stuff. And to be really honest with you, the game was in the background. I wasn't even paying attention to the England game. It was boring. Pete Gatz, good evening to you. I wonder if Mbama will get his chance. I doubt it, but maybe. You know what? I think he will. I don't think he'll start. I don't think he'll start, but I think he will get his opportunity to play and coming on from the bench now. I know a lot of you want him to start. I don't think that'll happen, but I think we'll see a bit more, getting a bit more game time. Good evening, Martin. Good evening to you. Mondays are tough, but end nicely. Thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. Oh, man, good evening to you. Imagine if that was the case, 20 goals for Danny Ings. What would we then say? What a signing. What a star. We knew he could do it. And then you come out with Ings couldn't score in the problem with a 5. Keith, hat-trick for Ings, Mbama brace, clean sheet, beat Burnley 5-0. I'm a teapot, I'm a tea. Good evening, Epic. I hope you're well. You're all delusional if you think Moyes is going to give minutes to a youngster. Well, I think he will. I think now he has no choice. Maybe his arm has been forced, but I actually think he will. He won't start. I think we can sort of, we can more or less agree that he won't start. But I think he will get a bit of game time. Daniela, good evening to you. I understand Bowen injury is not as bad as first thought. That's what I understand too. Good evening, John. How are you? A fat birdie in Kang. You carry on watching what you were watching. Good evening, Steve. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Keith, the way he treats the academy is a disgrace. I don't blame the kids for wanting out. Mbama has got to be given some trigger time. I think he will. But I think, again, it's not that don't get me wrong. When I say these things, it's not because I'm protecting David Moyes, but I will say it again. It's not just David Moyes who doesn't give youngsters game time. It's quite rife across. I'm going to do an analysis on just how many academy players are playing in the Premier League that came through their academy systems. You won't find that many. But I get what you're saying. Ballon. Anyone considered that Mbama isn't good enough? Seen many players smash the under-23s and then end up at Oxford. It's a very good point. That's a very good point. And if you watch my show, I think last week or the week before, I talked about, when it comes to the transfer window looming, we're all going on about, we want a striker, got to buy a striker. And in the same breath, the same people are saying, you've got to give the youngsters a chance. Well, which is it? Because unfortunately, you'll find that you've got to do one or the other. If you're going to give youngsters a chance, you don't go out buying players, because that will knock the youngsters further down the pecking order. So many would argue, you can do both. Well, we've got a full squad, and the senior players in the full squad are not getting game time. So why would we think if we add more senior players that the youngsters are going to then get more game time? They're not, are they? Old man, Moyes has a habit of things dropping in his lap by accident, not his design. So this might be, again, work out to be better. But remember, it's not his choice, it's forced. And that I agree with. This might be forced on him. He may be forced to now have to play different systems. He may be forced to now have to play different players. Those players that have been sidelined for most of the season and most of last season, all of a sudden may become maybe put in the spotlight. May all of a sudden be like, oh, we're playing. Not only are we playing, we're actually starting games. So I think you're right, old man. I think, this could, in a weird sort of way, could be a blessing in disguise that we've got certain injuries. Not happy about the Bowen one, but with the greatest of respect to Mikel Antonio, how many of us, moan when he was starting? I don't think many of us are going to be that disappointed. With the greatest of respect to Mikel Antonio, I don't think many of us are going to be that disappointed that he's now injured. Impact sub and all that sort of stuff. I get that, etc. But at the same time, as I said a moment ago, you're all screaming out for give Mumbama a chance. Well, Mumbama might now get a chance. Steve, Burnley have lost every home game, but come Saturday, up rock West Ham, the team that likes to give you just, I know, and it could happen, but then something different may happen. Barry, good evening to you. I know, I'm sorry I'm late, people. I did want to finish the England game. I don't know why, but I was actually doing the script, finishing off the script as well, but there you go. Adam, good evening to you. Morning, everyone. 8:45 in the morning over there, and raining here in New South Wales, which is a welcome thing. Hope you're all well. I hope you're well too, Alan. Sorry it's raining. I bet it's still something like, 30 degrees over there or something ridiculous, isn't it? Belong. He's involved in first team training. That tells you enough. It is an interesting point about Mumbama. Again, what I alluded to the other week was we don't get to see what's going on in the background. We don't get to see what's happening when it comes to, training and all that sort of stuff. We all scream from the rafters, from the rooftops, give him game time, give him game time. But we don't know what's going on, really, do we? But that's a really good point. We don't see what effort is being put in by the players, not just Mumbama, all the players. John, I guess Stell's watching I'm Celeb. Must be kidding, mate. Good morning to you, Jeff. How are you? Jerry, how are you, mate? Let's scroll down. Who else do we have? Vinay, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Sad to hear about Antonio. A bad way to end a career, if that is what is happening. We don't know that yet. There is wild speculation as to how long he's going to be out for. Some people are saying he's out for up to 3 months. Some people are saying he's out for 9 months. If it's 9 months, that's the end of his season. And I would dare say that's the end of his career, in it to a point. But then I've got to ask myself, why did we give him an extended contract, another year on top of the contract he already had? What was going on there? I bet he's nowhere to be seen. Steve, leave her alone. Good evening to you, Hammer. I hope you're well. Pickaxe, I wonder if it's still sorted out as well. It's sorted. New camera. Apparently, I was told the reason why my Wi-Fi was going down was because the camera was draining the Wi-Fi. I've never heard that before, but apparently got a new camera. Fingers crossed with the Wi-Fi. If this happens, there's something wrong. Let's scroll down. Good evening, Lawrence. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Still not like it's not like Stell has a job. No, yeah. I wish I did this as a full-time job. If I could earn from it, I would do it. I swear I would. I'd be on all day talking bollocks about West Ham. But I'm afraid I've got to pay the bills, and this ain't paying the bills. Ralph, these young youth players need game time. People banging on about how good they are, not good enough, but they don't get a flame. But as I've said, yes, I get it. I get it. How will you know if they're good enough or capable enough if you don't give them game time? But then we don't know what's going on in the background. We don't know, because, again, as I said, I think it's in my show last week, like you got the coaches who are talking, you've got the under-21s, under-18s, and the senior coaches. They're all talking to each other. One thing that David Moyes has got to be given credit for is that he got the academy a lot closer to the senior team, in pre-season, getting academy players in and all that sort of stuff. He was the one that set that up. And there's a continuous dialogue between the academy coaches and the senior coaches about how well or how badly the academy players are doing. So he knows what's going on and he'll get feedback. I think Steve Potts talked about the under-21s and what a great crop of youngsters we've got. David Moyes will know that. But David Moyes, this is a results business. Let's be honest. You don't get points for just playing youngsters. You get points for playing, hopefully, your best players. And if those best players at the moment happen to be the senior team without being able to accommodate youngsters, you're not going to drop a senior player for a youngster just because you want to give a youngster game time. Having said that, when it comes to players like Danny Ings over Steven Mbama, even I'm saying, well, come on, mate. We know Danny, unfortunately, as much as we love him to, we know he can't deliver. So why not give someone like Mbama a chance? And I think Mbama is going to get his chance. But look, Stella's on the phone to Dodsley's lawyer. Jerry, he's choked on it. The cat's, all right, enough of the jokes. Let's get to some serious stuff, shall we? The cat set of wire cutters and Stella's chasing him around the room trying to come. The little one was ill today. We had taken to the vet. We were a bit worried. I'm not going to tell you what was wrong. It's a bit personal, but a bit worried about him. But he's on antibiotics and he's doing all right. Now the fucker's just eating and sleeping all day. Finn, good evening to you. Still trying to find. Daniela, England crap. I said, let's. Oh boy, it was boring as hell. Absolutely atrocious. Lawrence, be good to see some of you get game time when Moyes goes. I'm going to ask you a question. I think I asked it last week as well. What would you do, whatever manager we get, whether it be the best manager in the world or, whoever, what would you guys think if the manager comes in and goes, I'm not using the youth. You must be kidding me. I want to get results. I want to win games. Unfortunately, the youth aren't going to get me that. What would you think then? Would it be, well, it's West Ham that isn't giving the youth a chance? Or would it be, well, this manager's no better than David Moyes? Or would it be, well, actually, he's got a point. If Moyes didn't see anything good in them, and if the new manager doesn't see anything good in them, then why should we even be thinking about using them? I'm not saying, I do think we have got a great crop of youngsters. We've got quite a number of them that will break through at some point. But it's not just a Moyes thing. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to protect David Moyes. It's just that, it's just Premier League managers will not use youth if they think it's a risk. They've got to get results. Hi, Mike. Good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Alan, still in gold-plated bathtub. Oh, how late was I? 9:50. Was I that late? Was I 8 minutes late? God, that's all of you talking about stuff before I even went live. I didn't realise. Finn, still the most rational. Thank you very much. I do try. Schmeagol, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Just woke up after watching that total snooze fest England game. Eamon, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Oops, where's the signed shirt of Paquetá? No one's donated one to me. The only one I was given, and I'm grateful for it by a viewer, gave me the Coufal shirt. So that's there for the time being. But I have been looking actually at a couple of shirts that you can bid for online, etc. Fucking hell, they're expensive, aren't they? They're not cheap. Lawrence. John, the internationals were almost over by the time. No, mate, they were over. I deliberately waited for them to be over. I wanted you all to really sort of like become virtually comatose by the time the game's finished. David, does Southgate copy Moyes' style? Well, yeah, good question. They're both defenders in their time, so I don't know. Good evening to you, Tofa. Brendan, Vlad will be the next fake number 9, be physical up front and score as many goals as Antonio. Good evening, Ryan. How are you, mate? Good evening, James. I hope you're well, mate. And good evening to you, Steve. How are you? And NWO, I hope you're well. Mark is in the house as well. I hope you're well too. You're mute. Mike, you're very, very welcome. I hope you enjoy the show. I'll let the others tell you if they think it's any good or not, but very welcome, mate. And if you haven't done it already, and whoever hasn't done it already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification, please. So welcome to you, Mike. I hope you're well. Mikey, how are you? Moyes won't play Mumbami. He will stick Paquetá up top, and he will have Kudus wasted on Bowen's right wing. Why wasted? That's Kudus's natural position. He's always played on the right side of midfield, and the only other position that he plays, and Chris Hooton, his international manager, will confirm, is as a number 10. So I don't know why you think he'll be wasted out on the right, because that's his natural position. Fornals should come into the fold now. Good shout. Interesting shout. Interesting. When you see my team lineups, I haven't actually included him, but it's a good shout. As for Antonio, absolute blessing in disguise. We do feel kind of guilty when we say that as fans, don't we? It's not that we wish an injury on any player. Absolutely not, without a shadow of a doubt. But it kind of feels like, I wasn't like, when I heard about the Bowen injury, I was like, oh shit, what now? When I heard about the Antonio injury, I went, oh well, I don't mean that maliciously. I don't feel that in a nasty way. I just feel a bit like you, Mikey. I kind of think a little bit of a blessing in disguise, to be honest with you. Thank you for gently caressing the like button. I'd be worried if you smashed it, because you probably smashed your laptop or your computer or whatever it is you're watching the show on. But thank you, mate. Much appreciated. He is. I hope that's all he's caressing while he's watching my show. Otherwise, I'd be very, very worried. Finn, are you only 4'9", or is that Mike massive? I don't want to brag, but it is quite massive, yeah. I'm glad you're all in a good mood, considering we've got a pile of bloody injuries. It's funny, actually. Let me come back to your comment in a minute, James. It's funny, actually. Someone put I think the Premier League did a stat, didn't they, at the weekend or whenever, about Premier League injuries. And someone proudly put it on Facebook and went, look at us, no injuries. West Ham, 0 injuries. And I went, yeah, careful. And then what happens? Antonio gets injured. Soucek gets that gash on his forehead, and then Bowen is like, you can make this up, could you? James, before we say about Mumbama up top, how has he been in the under-21s? Not great this season, but in all fairness, he's been in and out of that team because he's kind of been picked for the senior team as well. But as we all know, Callum Marshall has been absolutely smashing it in the under-21s. Mikey, then that is not Steffi and Mark. Mark, good evening to you, mate. Rumour has it Sel was pictured alongside Super drinking spice rum, not just any rum, mate. Spice rum. Oh, Vladimir, what were you thinking, mate? I mean, seriously, Lawrence. Stel's found his Christmas present for the Finn. If this was Sean Whetstone, would have been part of Sully's anatomy. Sean does give me a lot of information, whether you like him or not. He's a font of knowledge. Whether that knowledge you like or not is another matter. John, so anyway, we have no money to spend in January. Who told you that? I mean, where did that rumour come from? We've got money. Not a lot, but we've got money. We need to sell to buy or get a loanee. Yeah. Werner? No, don't lie. I'm not really. When I saw him for Chelsea, I was like, he's a half-decent player, but he's not really cutting it, is he? He's all right, I guess. I think he's a half-decent player. Would he be the sort of player that we want at West Ham? I'm not sure. As Tim and his crack connections, I reckon, yeah, it's a German connection, so you kind of automatically think it's going to definitely happen, don't you? Pina, he scored off the pitch and was caught hands down by the Czech manager. Unbelievable. Hammerett, fun fact for you, Vlasic hasn't scored and has only 1 assist in 12 games since we sold him, but they don't think they've got a bargain there. I bet they don't think they've got a bargain there currently. Perfect. Well, I'd bring him back. Bring him back. He's ready for us. Does it look that bad? You see, different, it's a bit of a wider lens so that, yeah, I guess I see what you mean. Yeah, all right. Cyber, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Funky T, how are you? At least it may force Moyes' hand to change things up front. Fingers crossed, Mbama gets a run out. So, yeah, I think, I think he will. I don't think he'll start, but I think he will get a run out. What striker would come to West Ham? The past and present is littered with wasted talent and opportunities. It's true. And guess what, people? Way before David Moyes turned up at West Ham, we were still struggling for strikers. What was the last count? So something like, under Sullivan, we bought, was it 49 strikers or something in the 10, 11, 12 years that the new owners have been here. So it's not just Moyes. Having said that, it does fill me with a bit of despair when I see the way Moyes uses the strikers. And you kind of think to yourself, when we bought Danny Ings, even I was going, hello, decent, striker for Premier League experience, etc. Knows where the goal is and so on and so forth. He's going to start smashing them in, isn't he? What happens? Played up front on his own, and he struggles. And that's what frustrates me. It frustrates you guys with David Moyes. You just think to yourself, what made him think that Danny Ings could come in as a lone striker? Let's scroll down because you're all still taking the piss out of my microphone. Daniela. In any way, what goes on international duty stays on naturally. Coufal should not face any punishment. I don't know. I think that's a really interesting one. Kudus scored after 5 minutes tonight. Did he? I haven't got the results for that, to be quite honest with you. I was looking for that. I didn't know they were playing tonight. Let's have a look at my notes and see. You might be right, mate. He's in action on Tuesday. You winding me up? Apparently, he's in action on Tuesday in qualifiers. According to my notes, I could be wrong though, so you may be right. But I was looking at all the updates. You're probably right, mate. Brent, I'm going to call you Brendan because I don't know how to pronounce Toga. West Ham would have suited Scamacca Hilaire. It is DM's tactics that were unsuitable. I don't disagree with that. I do agree. Let's scroll down. Ig Davis, Scamacca just needed to play with a real number 10. Scamacca is ridiculously good. I'm not saying he's not good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting for a minute that he's not a good striker. I still think that Hilaire was a better striker, to be quite honest with you. Bill, I thought Moyes had an MOT for these players he's bought. Well, that's another thing, isn't it? These players, I thought we were past the days of having players that are coming in who have got injuries, etc. And all of a sudden, we've always known about Antonio. What puzzles me is, knowing Antonio's history, etc., what made anyone think that giving him another year on his contract was a really good idea to do? Danny Ings, again, injury prone, so I don't understand why we went out and bought him either. It was a bit of a desperate purchase, wasn't it? Finn, striker situation needs to be solved come the 1st of January with a deal done and announced. I'll ask you guys again. Seriously, what would you prefer? Would you prefer for Mbama to be given game time or to go out and buy another striker? Answers, give me the answers in your comments. What's your preference? Mbama, we all shouting out, we want to give the youth a chance. So for you, what would it be? Would you prefer Mbama to be given game time, or would you prefer West Ham United to go out and buy another striker? Let's scroll down. Dean, good evening to you. So, wouldn't it be peak West Ham to buy the most elusive of all strikers, namely a Moyes prototype, then let Moyes go 5 months later? Wouldn't it be? It'd be weird, wouldn't it? It would be, why go out? This is my confusion about what might happen in the January transfer window. Are we going to go out and buy? If we're going to go out and buy Moyes type players, like a Moyes type striker, does that mean that Moyes might be staying beyond this season? You don't want to hear it, and I know Ralph and people like that are going to be apoplectic. Don't throw yourselves out the window, guys. But it's a real dilemma, isn't it, as to what might happen in the January transfer window. Maybe the solution, if we can do it, is getting a player on loan, a Moyes type striker on loan. And then at the end of the season, if and when Moyes does go, then perhaps the new coach, the new manager, might turn around and say whether he wants to keep that player that's on loan. That might be the only solution. Hamret, can you see a lone striker in January? That way the new manager gets gets their own striker in. You said it before I did, and you said it far quicker than I did. Mikey, I think he will give minutes to a youngster. The last 2 minutes in injury time. I know what you're saying, and I get it. And we've all seen it, and it does frustrate us, to be quite honest with you. I was surprised that Mbama got any minutes game time against Olympiacos, and then was disappeared from the team lineup and the subs bench for the following game on the following Saturday. That was a bit weird. Ronnie, good evening to you. Dodgy penalty, own goal. Other than that, a pretty uneventful game, spiced up by some strange refereeing. Yeah, the referee wasn't the best, was he? Finn, everyone's desperate for Mbama. We also had this with Sears, Lee, Martinez, Perkins, all not good enough. I totally agree. We all love Sears, one of our own and all that sort of stuff, but he weren't good enough. Lee, yeah, Martinez, okay-ish. I think he's doing okay in, I don't know, is it Portugal or somewhere like that? Sonny Perkins, I've always maintained, with the greatest of respect to the young lad, I always maintained that Mbama was a lot better than Perkins, and I wasn't disappointed that Perkins left. He went to Leeds, got relegated, and now he's on loan at Oxford, and disappeared from the world. Ralph, Stel, you said not many youth players make it in the Premier League. Well, our previous crop of youth players, Cole Ferdinand, etc., were Youth Cup winners, just like our present youth. They are smashing it in there. They absolutely are. Absolutely are. My point being, Ralph, is that not a lot of academy players, Premier League academy players, right across the board, all 20 teams, not a lot of Premier League academy players make it the big time. And when I say big time, I'm talking about Premier League. A lot of them make a career, absolutely, maybe in Championship, League One and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to Premier League football, our last crop was the Coles, the Ferdinands and all that sort of stuff. Is our current crop as good? Probably. There might be maybe 2 or 3 players in the current crop that might be just as good. And yes, we'd like to have them come through and play, be part of the senior team. I think, over the last few years, what have we had? We've had Ben Johnson, we've had we've had Declan Rice, and now David Mbama. Okay, 3 out of all the youth players is not a lot, but it's 3 better than most. And before tell me nothing to do with Moyes. I know nothing to do with Moyes. And Mbama, yes, but I know Declan and Ben Johnson were pre-David Moyes. James, these injuries might see whether Moyes has the mentality to change things. I think he's going to have. I think what Moyes is going to be doing right now is thinking to himself, right, players out. What am I going to do? Right, I need to keep my shape. I need to keep the 4-2-3-1. Who's going to fit in the 4-2-3-1 formation? That's going to be his first line of thought. He's going to be thinking to himself, I want to keep the 4-2-3-1. What players have I got in order to fit that? It's going to be square pegs in round holes, to be quite honest with you. E. Davis. Mbama is our best option. He's a better striker than Antonio now. I think he's got more potential without a doubt. I think Antonio's finished. But having said that, I thought Antonio, with the greatest of respect again, was finished a couple of years back, to be quite honest with you. Thomas. Rico Lewis was excellent for England tonight. He's 18 years old, playing international football. Mbama can't even get a game at his club. Yeah, that's a good point, Thomas. Yeah, if you're good enough, you are going to be. There's a lot of things that go on for managers. I mean, everyone says about the England manager being much the same, Gareth Southgate being much the same as David Moyes, doesn't give you a chance, doesn't change it, etc. And there you have Rico Lewis, who was excellent tonight. And if you're good enough, you'll play. E. Davis. Mbama is 19. That's not that young. Play him. Yeah, if he's good enough, I think he will. Hammerich. Finn, you do have a point there. And others that have left haven't been as good as we all thought. However, Mbama has had enough of a chance. Has Mbama had enough of a chance? Not yet. But I think this could be his time. This could be his time. Look, let me stop there for a second and just go into some, a little bit about the internationals, give you a bit of a roundup. I still want to know, did Kudus really play tonight? Weird. Okay, international roundup. So let's tell you what I know. Kudus was in action at the weekend. A number of players were in action over the weekend, etc., for their international teams. Mohamed Kudus kicked off their 2026 World Cup qualifier again in Group I with a dramatic 1-0 win over Madagascar on Friday night. Chris Hughton's side scored deep into stoppage time, sparking wild celebrations that saw Kudus booked. Now, here's my notes. So, John, I may be wrong. should be back in action on Tuesday is what I've got. So do correct me if I'm wrong. Where they head to the island of Comoros in the Indian Ocean for their second tie of the World Cup qualifying campaign. So if I'm wrong, my apologies. Next one up, Dinos. Dinos Mavropanos was in the Greek side, which overcame New Zealand 2-0 in a friendly that was played last week in Athens. The centre-back had a quite comfortable afternoon against New Zealand, where both goals came in the first half. Mavropanos, correct me if I'm wrong again, will be back in action again on Tuesday when they complete their UEFA Euro 2024 qualifying campaign at home to Alphonse Areola's France in Athens. With France already qualifying, Greece are now playing purely for pride. As the Netherlands beat the Republic of Ireland 1-0 on Saturday, which leaves the Netherlands 3 points ahead of Greece in the group. But even if Greece beat France, and even if the Netherlands surprisingly lose to Gibraltar, which you can't imagine, the head-to-head games between Netherlands and Greece means that the Dutch side are through into the finals for next year. With France, I've repeated that, so my apologies. France played poor old Gibraltar. France played Gibraltar in the at the weekend, where they smashed them 14-0. And despite that, playing against Gibraltar, you'd have thought that maybe Alphonse Areola might have been given a bit of game time, but regrettably no. As mentioned, France play against Greece on Tuesday, and it'll be interesting to see if Didier Deschamps makes any changes to the lineup, maybe, hopefully, giving Areola an opportunity to play. But I'm guessing not. Who else has been in action? Edson Alvarez was in the Mexico team, which lost 2-0 to Honduras on Saturday in the CONCACAF Nations League. He will undoubtedly, and now there's a chance that they could be eliminated from that competition. He will undoubtedly be in the return leg on Wednesday, hosted in Mexico. And then we'll have just a few days to fly back to the UK, ready for the trip to Burnley, jet lag and all that sort of stuff. It's roughly a 12,500 mile round trip from the UK to Honduras, Honduras to Mexico, and back to the UK. Oh, let me get rid of that. And so, hopefully, Alvarez will get through and is fit enough. But I just wonder if jet lag, if tiredness is going to take its toll in the game this weekend. Plus, with all the injuries that we've got, it's another thing that to be slightly concerned about. Right, what other ones have we got? World Cup qualifier between Morocco and Eritrea was meant to be held last Thursday, but that was cancelled. But Morocco play either Tanzania. Now, here's a confusing one. Morocco play either Tanzania or USA. Tanzania in the World Cup qualifier or USA. Now, according to Sky, it's the USA, and according to the BBC website, it's Tanzania. So what game are they playing? And of course, that's Naif Agurd, who was possibly going to be out with a head injury, but my understanding is he's fit enough and he would be available for that game. Who else? Well, Northern Ireland's Callum Marshall was in a second-half substitute in the 4-0 defeat last week against Finland. They're already out of the Euros, but this was a game that they played because they had to. And then today they played against Denmark earlier today on Monday, where they won 2-0. But Callum Marshall was an unused sub in that game. Another West Ham player, which was a sub in the game against Finland, was defender Michael Forbes. He made his senior debut against Finland on Friday, but unfortunately he wasn't in the squad for the game against Denmark tonight. After their 1-1, and here we go with the injuries. After their 1-1 draw against Poland on Friday, the Czech Republic were again in action tonight against Moldova in their final Euro qualifier fixture. After Tomas Soucek scored the goal, which earned them a favourable draw against Poland on Friday, a home win or a draw against Moldova would see them guarantee to finish qualifiers for the Euros. So Soucek, as we already know, was in the wars yet again. And what is it about Soucek's head that gets battered everywhere? You know, I've lost count of the number of times he's had a smash on the head and blood pouring from him. But despite that, despite getting that injury, he was deemed fit to play tonight. And he even scored in the last minute of normal time when they beat Moldova 3-0. One player who wasn't selected for the game against Moldova was, of course, Vladimir Coufal. Now, after the game against Poland, you already know this, we've already briefly discussed it, Coufal and a couple of international teammates thought it'd be a great idea to go out on the piss and clubbing after the game. Between Czech Republic and Poland, and before the game against Moldova. Now, look, given that the Czech Republic still needed points to qualify, or a point to qualify, sure, it was the cleverest thing for Vladimir Coufal to have done. He was immediately suspended from the squad, the international squad, and like we kind of just talked about, he might be in a bit of trouble with David Moyes as well. Now, we know Moyes is a little bit of a sort of a disciplinarian in a way. You know, he doesn't like that kind of antic happening, and I don't know how he would actually take what Coufal has done. He sees Coufal as a senior player in West Ham United, someone to be looked up to, etc., respected, and so on and so forth. So I just wonder what Moyes might do if he decides to punish Coufal for what he did whilst on international duty. As Daniela said, you know, what happens on international duty stays there. But it doesn't work that way, does it? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Of course, as we already know, Jarrod Bowen was an unused sub in the uninspiring 2-0 win over Malta last Friday for England. And then he picked up an injury on Sunday, which meant he didn't travel for the game against Macedonia, Northern Macedonia tonight, the final group stage, which we already know finished 1-1. I'm going to talk about Bowen's injury a bit more in a moment. Another player on international duty, and how many of us were waiting for this to happen? Another player on international duty was Mikel Antonio, who lasted 21 minutes in the CONCACAF Nations League qualifying game between Jamaica and Canada, which Jamaica lost 2-1. The return leg is this coming Wednesday, I think, that obviously Antonio is going to miss. And according to some, or certainly according to the West Ham United, Antonio played 10 minutes more than he should have done because he picked up that injury on something like the 11th or 10th, 11th minute, but carried on playing. And you could see a video of him limping off when he was substituted. West Ham aren't happy. So when it comes to that, actually, before I go on to team selection options, let's go back into your comments and see what else you have to say. Right. Everyone makes reference to the exceptional youngsters and then include Mbama in the equation. The truth is, we don't really know if he's in that kind of bracket yet. We don't. You know, he was the one that was shining through in the last couple of seasons for the academy, and he's got his permanent place in the senior squad now. Of course, you've got to move from a permanent place in the senior squad to having a place in the starting 11. And we don't know just how ready he is. I did speculate in the summer that I thought Mbama would be sent out on loan. And I thought, if anything, that would have been the best option for him, to be quite honest with you. David Moyes didn't want to send him out on loan. I know there's all this talk about his contract, etc., that he decided that he didn't want to sign, and that's still up for grabs as well. Apparently, David Sullivan is going to try and speak to Mbama to try and get him to sign that contract. So let's see what happens there. Adam, sorry I'm late. It's all right, mate. I hope you're well. But hopefully the youngsters will get minutes now, and maybe Cornet can get on as well. I'm going to come to that. My mic is echoing. I do apologise for that. Maybe because I'm too close to it and I've got it turned up too high. So I apologise. I've turned it down, so hopefully that's better. James, my laptop camera was affecting the Wi-Fi too. Disabled that camera and all was well with it. Well, there you are. And my other laptop has just decided to fucking update itself with all my notes on it. How fucking annoying is that? I've got one laptop for the viewing and for the images and all that, and I've got another laptop for the script, and it is updating itself. What an absolute... Anyway, better not swear. James, even Cole Palmer is boasting it where he went. David, good afternoon to you, mate, from Calgary. Joining you for half an hour until we needed to get back to it. Welcome, mate. I hope you're well, and thank you for choosing the West Ham Weekly for your half-hour break. Really much appreciated, mate. Thomas, the difference between great managers to one that don't trust any of the under-21s. I'm sure Pep is under more pressure than Moyes, and he puts faith in youngsters. Massive difference. And I've talked about this before as well. So when he brings on the Fodens and people like that, he doesn't bring on 2 or 3 players all at once. He's got absolutely superb players around Foden. And if you look at the way Foden was introduced and all the other City youngsters were introduced, they weren't just thrown in at the deep end. They were coming on 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 20 minutes here, half a game here, and all that sort of stuff. And then they started getting more game time. Massive difference between a Man City that's got 10 world-class footballers on the pitch, where they can just about manage to have a youngster come on in the midst of them who is a phenomenal youngster to boot, to something like West Ham United, where you've got 2, 3 very, very decent top-level footballers, and then you've got a lot of good footballers, and then you bring in a youngster in that fold. Not quite the same. I get your point, Thomas. I understand it, but it's a world of difference between bringing a youngster on in the Man City fold than bringing a youngster on for a team like West Ham. Let's be honest. Let's face it. I'm not putting West Ham United down. It's a reality. It's a fact. It is what it is. Unfortunately, we don't have 10 world-class footballers on the pitch that can accommodate a youngster for half a game or half an hour or 20 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. But it's a good point. It's a good point. Paul, what about Rolling Stones' new album still? I haven't heard it all yet, to be quite honest with you, but I'll give it a try, Paul. Thank you. Mikey, can't believe we're linked to Werner. Dear God, Geezer is absolute pony, can't hit a barn door. I don't know where it's come from, but you know what it's like, before the transfer window opens. Believe it, Mikey, he ain't going to be the only half-decent or not a no-decent player that we're going to be linked to. Some of the youngsters, Brendan, are already capped internationally. Well, yeah, Marshall is. I don't think anyone else is. And now Michael Forbes got a bit of game time as well for Northern Ireland. I'm not sure anyone else is. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Adam, yes, I've said the Bowen update. Well, no, I haven't. I actually haven't gone into a lot of detail about the injuries. So let me do that. So Jarrod Bowen, as we know, let me just try and knock that back on. Jarrod Bowen, as we know, was sent home on Sunday because he sustained an injury during training, which is a knee injury. And from what we're told, he's going to have his scan on Tuesday. And once that scan results, excuse me 1 second. Once the results of the scan are given to us, then we'll be in a better position to understand how bad it might be. From what we're told, it's precautionary. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything serious. But you know what? Fair enough to Southgate that they decided to send him home rather than to keep him there. What would have been the point? So I'm pleased that's been done. Look, when you have a scan, it means it's going to be a little bit serious. Do I think he's going to get through the scan without missing a game? No, to be quite honest with you, I don't think he will. I think Bowen might miss a game. He might miss a game or two, which means that he might miss the game against Burnley this coming Saturday, and then the away game against TSC in the Europa League next Thursday. But I think that aside, I think he'll be okay to continue playing or to return to playing in the home game against Crystal Palace in about a week and a half from now, just under 2 weeks from now. That's my understanding. My understanding is it's precautionary, nothing to be concerned about. A scan is customary, and it hopefully will determine, it will tell us that the injury is not too bad. Having said that, my understanding is if he's going to miss a game, it could be the next 2 games, and that will probably be it. When it comes to Antonio, we're looking at a completely different scenario altogether. As I said earlier on in the show, there's speculation that he could be out between 3 to 9 months. I think it's the worst case scenario. It's not his hamstring that was originally mentioned, but it's another knee injury. And what I said earlier, West Ham United are really frustrated at the fact that he was allowed to carry on playing. He got the knock. He was obviously limping. He carried on playing, and it was another 10 minutes before Jamaica, the manager decided to take him off. And I think that's where West Ham United are really frustrated. They're really frustrated that it took so long to bring him off. Now, look, He's going to get his wages paid for him. I think it's like a FIFA agreement thing that he'll get his wages paid for him. But that's scant consolation, to be quite honest with you. You know, you'd much rather have the footballer than have the wages. But having said that, and the blessing in disguise could be that if he's getting his wages covered whilst he's injured, it means we can use that money, the wages that we would have been paying Mikel Antonio, we can use that money to pay another striker that we may bring in if we bring a striker in the January transfer window. Whether it be a loan or whether it be a permanent signing, we'll have that flexibility in the money that we're not paying Antonio, because his money will be covered by FIFA. Scant consolation, blessing in disguise, depends on how you feel about Antonio. Look, great servant that he's been, absolutely a great servant that he's been. But as we've been saying earlier, and many people have been alluding to as well in the comments, it was, you know, I don't know why Antonio was given an extended contract. I don't know why we're relying so much on Antonio to lead the line. We know that the minute he gets injured, we've been waiting for a hamstring injury, and we haven't got that, but we've got an injury that's also quite serious. If he's out for 9 months, someone suggested, you know, in the chat that maybe that's the end of his West Ham career. We might not see him again. He's got another 2 years on top of that contract. He won't be leaving West Ham United until he's 36. I don't know what the thinking was. I don't know what the rationale was in order to give Antonio that extra year. I'm not sure I understand it, because that just filled me with a little bit of frustration. It made me say to myself, what on earth are we doing? What's our plan? What's our plan with Antonio? Where are we going with Antonio? What's the thinking behind having him here until he's 36 years of age? Surely there must be another striker. Let's say, for argument's sake, David Moyes stays on beyond this year. Let's say, just for argument's sake, that he does. And he would always play the same system of the one up front, and he wants an Antonio type of player. Surely out there's got to be another Antonio type striker that David Moyes can bring in. How he hasn't managed to do, I guess the answer of how he hasn't managed to do it is because he's almost created this role. You know, it's almost like Moyes has created the type of striker that he wants. You know, he wants the striker to run, you know, to run the channels and to get out there, to cross the ball in and all that sort of stuff, to bully the defenders and so on and so forth. There are other players like that, but no one does it like Antonio. And the fact that he's relied on Antonio for so many seasons is an absolute frustration, a total and utter frustration. You kind of sit there and you go, you know, even if he doesn't want to play another system, if Moyes maintains that this is his way, he wants to play a 4-2-3-1 and one striker up front, surely there's got to be another player out there that can do a very similar role. You can't clone Antonio, and with his hammies, would you want to? But, you know, you can't clone him. So why has Moyes insisted with him? Why is it, I think someone again alluded to, when he's pushed, you know, when his back is against the wall, he's now got no choice but to go for an alternative option, something different to Antonio. And it is frustrating. It is, because we can play a different way. We've got footballers that can play football, that don't need the big man up front. I've always said in the past, in years before, you know, in the previous seasons, every time we've got Antonio on the pitch, all that players seem to be told to do or seem to want to do is they want to get that ball up direct to Antonio and let him go off and do his thing. We don't need to do that anymore. We've got the Pakatars, we've got the Kudus, we've got Bowen, we've got players that are skillful, we've got Ward-Prowse who can play short balls, long balls and all that sort of stuff. We've got the Alvarez in the team. We've got a very different football team to what we had when Antonio became our main number 9. I think the biggest mistake that we made was to give him, and I know it sounds weird, but to me, the biggest mistake we made was to give him the number 9 shirt. We shouldn't have done it. We shouldn't have done it. All of a sudden, things seemed to change with Antonio. All of a sudden, that having that number 9 made him really think he was head honcho. And I guess he was, because he knew that he was never going to be dropped, even when he was playing badly. Look how long it's taken this season for David Moyes to finally drop him from the team in order to play an alternative way of football. And look how good we've looked when we've played that alternative way of football. Yeah, Bowen isn't necessarily the long-term answer to being our number 9, but boy, oh boy, against Arsenal, for example, and in other games that he's played up front this season, He's made us look different. We've been playing it to feet. We're not playing the long balls up to Bowen because he's not a big guy. He's not a tall guy. He's not going to be able to bully 6'4" defenders out of the way to win a header, etc. He'll do it in a different way. Play it to feet, and he's got much more skill to be able to pass players, and he's got a bit of pace. He can pass defenders in a different way to Antonio does. So it's a different game. So I don't know why we gave Mikel Antonio an extra year in his contract, unless David Moyes is thinking, or whoever it was that gave him the contract is thinking, well, he can go back and play as a defender again. We've got him as an option to play as a defender, as an impact sub and stuff like that. Because that's the only reason I can really think of why he was given this extra contract. I don't understand it. I don't understand why we didn't go out there and look for a striker. Look, we have been looking for strikers. We were linked to a number of strikers, and there were conversations being had in the summer transfer window. Do I think we're going to get a permanent striker in January? I don't think we will. Going after Solanke, we're not going to get Solanke from Bournemouth halfway through the season when Bournemouth are going to be fighting to stay in the league. They're going to be relying on him. Maybe in the summer, yeah, quite possibly. But then you look around, and if you remember what I've said before, what David Moyes has said, he doesn't like working for looking for targets in the January transfer window. He can't get the players that he wants, or if he can't get them for the price because everyone ups the ante. Everyone knows that you need a certain type of player, so they'll add a few million onto the price, etc. So I actually don't think we're going to get a striker in the January window. Certainly not a permanent. A loan, maybe. But if we go out and get a loan striker, it's going to be someone that's out of favour in the team that they're playing for, because no club is going to turn around and go, sure, West Ham United, we'll give you our striker, he's on top form, so yeah, go ahead and have him. He's going to be a striker. It's going to be a player that's not necessarily going to be getting a lot of game time at the club he's currently at. Solanke is playing regularly for Bournemouth, so I just dispute that straight away. I can't see for love nor money that we'll get Solanke in January. Maybe in the summer, but certainly not January. But why did we give Antonio that extended deal? I don't know. I don't get it. It seems weird. Lee, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Fell over last Wednesday. Hurt my head. Very close, but I'm fine up there. I wish you well, mate, and look after yourself. And I hope it's not too badly bruised. Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, John. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Finn, Mbama will get a testimonial before Ings scores. I like that. Let's scroll down. There's something wrong with the audio. I think it probably was me having turned it up. I hope it's better now, but I'll scroll down. Are you sure you're using the right mic? Well, it's plugged in. So, oh God, I've sorted out the Wi-Fi. Now I've got mic problems. Let's make sure. I hope you can hear me now. I've turned it down, and I can see the what you call it going. So I hope it sounds okay. Keith, good evening to you. Surely Moyes can play Mbama now. Really don't want Ings. What about Cornet? I'm getting to that in a moment. Good evening to you, Clive. I can see you there somewhere. I hope the sound. Tell me, people, is the sound okay, or is it still quite bad? I'm actually quite far behind. So I've been ranting. I've been talking on and on without looking at your comments. So let's scroll down a bit. Hi, mate. You remind me of David Baddiel. Spelt wrong, I know. Where is Frank? Come on, mate. I'm much better looking than Baddiel, for God's sake. And he's a spud. So come on. Let me see. Clive, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. How about playing Cornet as an actual number 9 instead of as a false number 9, which is basically a number 9 with a 14 on it on the shirt. Your mic looks fine. Don't know what these guys are like. Ronnie, the worrying thing about playing Mavropanos up top. He used to be a striker. Strikers that end up as centre halves do it for a reason. Who's suggesting Mavropanos up top? Dan, good evening to you. Steinem will sort out the striker situation. Replacing Rice was a lot harder than finding a competent striker. That's a really good point, Dan. Yeah. I mean, we've been patting ourselves on the back for the what we've done with our transfers, and I gave our transfer window an 8 out of 10. I said I think we did exceptionally well with our transfer signings, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, good point about getting the right striker in. It is hard to find a decent striker. Good point. Adam, Mbama hasn't had time this season in the under-21s to get in form. He's been in the senior squad, but hasn't played, so isn't in form. He still needs to get 15, 20 minutes against Burnley, and he might do. Let's scroll down, because I didn't realise just how far behind I was. I must admit, Stell does look like a hobbit guy. Isn't that big? Lawrence, you're all taking the piss out of the Maya. Is that a Maya who just pleased to see us? Yeah. John, maybe I'm late with the Kudus goal. I might have been. You, honestly, mate, you really got me confused. I was like, Kudus hasn't played today. It might have been last week. Anyway, Pfizer is sponsoring you. Is Pfizer sponsoring? Funky T. If Man City and Chelsea get the Everton treatment, we could be a top 6 Champions League team. Well, I talked about that last week, didn't I? It's like, what's going on here? If Everton have been docked 10 points for their financial faux pas, then you've got to, 115 charges against Man City. Surely that's demotion, relegation to the bottom tier of our leagues, isn't it? League 2. Juha, good evening to you. Why buy a striker when we don't use them? Right. We can't get a striker anyway till January, so why not try him? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And this is why I've got some options for team selections, which I'm going to go through in a moment. Schmiegel, once I get through another half hour's worth of comments. Schmiegel, I'd rather go out and buy another striker. There's no evidence that Mbama will make it. Good point. There is no evidence. But people will argue, if you don't give them a chance, you're never going to know. So I get that point as well. But Ralph is absolutely correct. We can't go out and buy a striker now anyway. So we've got between now and January to really test the water with Mbama, with Cornet, with Dunnings, and all those other players. Pick out Sellings and Cornet and get a striker. Mbama is still unproven. Mikey, if Moyes gets another contract, then I will lose. Oh, shit. Clive, you're sat what for, mate? Because of the microphone. John, get shot of Ings and Antonio, but we can't get rid of Antonio now. He's injured. And if he really is out injured for 9 months, no one's buying him. And we've been trying. Look, I think I said it before in previous shows, but when it came to the summer transfer window, we did try to move a few players on. Cornet was one, Danny Ings was another. Antonio was one that we didn't want to get rid of, but he was the one that was shouting from the rafters, the rooftops, that, I might be going elsewhere. He was doing that because he was trying to push West Ham United to give him a better deal. West Ham United effing well folded and gave him a better deal. But when it came to the likes of Danny Ings, Maxwell Cornet, and one or two others, we were trying to find buyers for them, but buyers didn't want them. In the case of Maxwell Cornet, I think Everton were quite close. They looked at his, mind you, Everton, where would they have found the money? But anyway, quite close. They looked at his injury record and went, no thanks. I'm trying so hard. Mbama. When I say Mbama, that's wrong. When I say Mbama, that's wrong. It's Mbama. I know, mate. I know. Douglas, there are strikers that can play one more than... there are strikers that can play on more than one system. Absolutely. Not saying that there isn't, but I think Moyes he's got in his head, hasn't he? He's never been good with strikers, not just at West Ham United. Steve, good evening to you. A lone striker is the best option. Then when Moyes goes, support the new manager in the summer. Good call. Ray, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Smeagol, Jimenez, David are my choices, but just can't see us signing one of them. And I can't see him signing, like I said earlier on, I can't see us signing anyone that's getting regular game time for their current club. Daniel, I hear Moyes is saying that he's going to then get a job upstairs, then Scotland job come up. He's not getting a job upstairs. I did ask that, what's all this rumour about him being offered a job as a director? And the answer was, how many directors do you want at a football club? You've got a sporting director, you've got a technical director, you've got the board of directors, etc., etc. Why would you need another footballing director? And good point. Right. Clive, where's your spanner? Mate, oh dear. Upton Turf, good evening to you. All right, yeah, no. Good evening to you, Upton Turf. Thomas, you can't score goals if you're not playing. True, but then when certain players are playing, they still can't score goals, can they? Hammers Mikey, send that delusional Moyes to Everton and get him relegated with them. Imagine if he went to Everton and then kept them up. Ronnie, how did the dance go back? Go on, you can answer that, Budgie. Upbeat, if Antonio was playing for England, there would be no noise at his club. Because it's Jamaica, the height of hypocrite advice. Absolutely not. I don't begrudge any player wanting to play international football. It's their prerogative. It's their choice. Antonio was in the England squad twice. The first time or the second time, one of the times he didn't get any game time because he was injured, so he had to drop out of the squad. And the other time he was an unused sub. So the fact that he decided to go and represent Jamaica, all fair play. I think the problem that people have got is that he started his international career quite late in his career, and I think that's the problem that people have, that considering the number of injuries that he's had throughout his career, hamstrings and all that sort of stuff, traveling quite a distance to play for Jamaica, all the traveling time that involves, etc., and the fear of getting injured, this is what people are concerned about. I have absolutely no problem at all for any player to represent their nation, or their adopted nation. I don't have an issue with that. But it was a concern with Antonio's history of injuries, etc. I think that people get more upset about. John, I noticed a mini Danny Fenn behind Stell, or is that the camera messing up the proportion? Which one? That's my trophy. You're talking about, look at that. When I was once a footballer, look, got to show you that. There you go. Legend, it says. Oops. Anyway, let's scroll down. Mikey, imagine it now. It's written in the stars. Probably the only club that would take on Moyes without us. Everton, you mean? Hammerette. If Bowen, let me just look that. If Bowen is also out against Burnley, then I don't hold much hope of Mubama getting any game time if we have to play Benny left wing. Let me get onto those. I'm itching. I'm catching up. I'm itching to show you the options that I think Moyes has, or Moyes knows he has. John, Earthy looks a player. What worries me is Johnson was the best player on the pitch against Bristol City. You're spot on. That was in the EFL trophy where Johnson played, and people said, we've got a load of good youngsters, and yet Ben Johnson was the best player that we had on the pitch, and yet Ben Johnson is certainly not the best player we've got in the senior team. So you see the imbalance. And Earthy is a decent player. Marshall is a decent player. One or two others are decent, but you've got to be more than just decent, haven't you? You've got to be absolute standout. Lawrence, Moyes got no excuses for putting players out of their best positions. I agree with that. Yeah, he does put square pegs in round holes. Smeagol, saw Zaza at the London Stadium yesterday taking photos doing the cross hammer sign. Did you? Interesting. I thought he was playing tomorrow. John's on a wind-up. Garner kicking off at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you, John. John, take note instead of winding me up. Dexter Austin, good evening to you. I'm very well. Although I think Mubama is a great talent, I don't think it would be fair to heap that much pressure on him at this stage. I do believe we need alternative options. Good call. It is, and this is the dilemma, isn't it? This is why we're fans, and we all have different thoughts, different ideas, different sort of answers for the questions. A lot of people, Dexter, like you, think the same thing. It would be a massive pressure on Mubama to play him, but then other fans will go, well, hang on a minute, if he's good enough, play him. This is the big question, though. Is he good enough? Brendan, Alvarez played straight after the last international break machine, and he looked knackered for it. That's the thing that worries me about. Alvarez will be playing on Wednesday night. I think they play very early in the morning, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, something like that. I think is their game time. And he looked, great. He is a machine, but he started to wilt in the first game back. And it worries me that we got Burnley away, so he's going to be playing on Wednesday night, very early Wednesday morning. Finish that game, fly back to England, get over to Burnley, or maybe he'll fly straight to Burnley, I don't know. Train with the team, need some recuperation time. It worries me. With the injuries that we've got, it does worry me. Mikey, Czech FA is pathetic. Never happened with Gaza Gate back in the day when he was out doing the dentist chair with his teammate, smashed it out his nut. I know, different days, mate, different times, different days. I don't know. Let's scroll down to try and catch up. Let's go down a bit. Do forgive me. Trying to get a few as many comments as I can in. You know I can't do them all, but I do try. Keith, Coufal is from the Czech Republic. He could down a bottle of 88 and still drive home safely. Leave him alone. Good evening, Obsidian. I hope you ate fashionably late. What have I missed? Nothing, mate. Absolutely nothing. And if you want me to talk about the England game for half an hour, Lord Patrick, guess who's back? Guess who's back? Hello, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Let's scroll down. Upton Turf. Soucek is an automaton, a Duracell battered battery. Boy, oh boy. When I saw the mark on his forehead, it's like, what on earth, mate? What is going on? Schmiegel. Funny how it takes players getting injured for Moyes to change it up. You just can't carry on with the same 11 players all the time, especially when we are in multiple competitions. I do agree with that. That's another another frustration. Graham, good evening to you. If Bowen is injured, I'm guessing the mic's okay now, people, and it's not like echoing or anything like that. I haven't had anyone make more comments unless oh, you fuckers, I only just got it. I only just got what you're all. Oh, I'm a bit slow, aren't I? I got the order. Okay, you got me. You all got me. I missed the joke. I've only just got it. Graham, if Bowen is injured, then you know it's Ings up front on his own. Do we though? Guaranteed that he hasn't worked in 20 games. Playing Mbama is a risk, but worth the risk. We don't know though, do we? F the script. We are freewheeling as Hammers fans. I gave up on the script hours ago. Adam, we need 7 points from the next 9 games, so let's see how Moyes does it. I really want Mbama to get 15 to 20 minutes against Burnley. If he did score, his confidence could go through the roof. Very, very true. Very true. Hammer it. Mousegate said it was precautionary. It didn't want to risk taking him. Could not be too serious. I don't think it is. I don't think it is, to be honest with you. But the scan will tell us tomorrow. We might find out tomorrow evening, more likely Wednesday, about Bowen. I think we can just kiss Antonio goodbye for the most part of this rest of this season. Grant, Bowen will end up playing but not fit. Then his niggle will become serious. That's the danger. That's why we're doing the scan, mate. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Hammer it. Did you see the Toffees may get a further 9-point deduction depending on Leicester, Burnley and Leeds going for it? Well, if that's the case, then you've got to take Man City and Chelsea out of professional league football, haven't you? You know, put them in the amateur leagues. Rani, Mbama should defo get some minutes against Burnley. It will be a harder game against Palace, so he needs at least some minutes next week, or we probably won't see him till Euro. Good point. Yeah, get him ready. That's a really, good point. Let's scroll down. Brendan, some more than one. Some equals more than one. Yep, that is Marshall and Forbes, and Kelly and Moore will probably be capped by Northern Ireland in the near future too. Look, great. I think it's fantastic. You know, I don't want to disrespect Northern Ireland. John McCarthy, do close your ears on it. I don't want to disrespect Northern Ireland, but their level of internet, I mean, they're not the best international team around, are they? But it's great that we're getting these youngsters to play for them. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, if, for example, Marshall and Forbes were, I don't know, Welsh internationals or Scottish internationals, would they have gotten their senior international caps? I don't know. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I guess you kind of know what I'm trying to get at. Adam, if Mbama plays and we get a draw, at worst, it's worth it. So Mbama gets confidence and experience, and the players learn that the runs he makes, it's all a learning curve for him. Good point, Montana. The other player to do that is Arnautovic, but he's a better Antonio. Best years are behind him. Absolutely agree. He was. And ironically, who turned Arnautovic into a striker? David Moyes. Lawrence, wonder if Moyes would have played the likes of Joe Cole, Carrick, Lampard, Defoe and Ferdinand. Good question. Good question. Grant. Who will start in midfield if Soucek can't play at the weekend because of his head injury? Commentary? No. Well, he played tonight, Soucek, and he scored in the 3-0 win in the international game, I think, over Moldova. So he's fit enough. It's just when he goes up for a header with that, what Oh, can you imagine the blood would get like everywhere? Spiegel. Moyes is so tactically limited. If you can only get the best out of strikers like Antonio, who isn't even an out-and-out striker. James, it's all because Moyes isn't competent. He doesn't have the right attitude, behaviour and mindset to see what's happening in a game and change it at the right time. He's too old school. I do despair. I do despair. When it comes to making changes in a game, he's too slow to do that. And it is, agreed, it is a frustration. Hamlet. I'm looking forward to the next manager. Exciting stuff, fresh ideas, unpredictable tactics, new players. And why not get a new manager? Schmeichel. He just wants his forwards to hold up play so someone else can swoop in and score goals. How's that working out? Not great. How far behind am I? Not far. I'm catching up. Christopher, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. Great show. Thank you very much. Main signing we need to make is a manager. People saying Alonso is out of reach, but also will still too experienced. Can't have both in the next. Man. Look, I do think David Moyes will leave at the end of the season. I was speculating a few weeks back. When there was all this talk about what's going on behind the scenes, etc. Will he stay until January? And there was a lot of talk about. He's got to make sure he's working well with Tim Steidten in the January transfer window. Talk about making sure that they're working as a unit. Not blocking Tim Steidten, etc. I think they're on the same wavelength. By the sounds of it. It seems to be that they're talking the same language. If David Moyes, from what I was told before, if David Moyes starts playing up and going, no, I don't want this player, I'm not interested, blah, 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 there might be a problem. And if that starts happening in the January transfer window, you might see movement. But I've got a feeling Moyes will stay to the end of the season. And then I think he will leave. It's got to be an exceptionally phenomenal season for David Moyes to stay. I think West Ham United board will say, we've had an absolute blast with you. You've taken us to Europe 3 seasons in a row. You've won us a trophy, etc., etc. But we're not going to be renewing this contract. Now, a few weeks ago, there was all this talk about David Moyes had been called in to Sullivan's office and told you're not having your contract renewed. That's poo-poo. That's absolutely not true, because there's no way, no matter how badly run you think West Ham United is by the owners, no matter how badly run you think it is, no owner is going to turn around to his manager and go, all right, mate, your contract, you know what, we're not renewing it at the end of the year. Hope that's all right with you. Carry on until the end of the season and then we'll see you. There's no way anyone's going to do that. So I do think he'll be here till the end of the season, but I don't think he'll get a new contract. Rico, yeah, they've been winding me up. Sound is terrible, can still hear you. Christopher, you hear me now? You're saying this, doing the sound check reminded me more of Ali Giroud. Upton. Ings won't go. His hair will grow and knock down the walls inside the columns of gold. That's what's missing. All his hair's gone. He hasn't been scoring goals. The minute it grows back, he'll be our new, Samson, won't he? Pete, I hope you're well, mate. But there was a Chelsea. Oh, is he? That's just as bad, isn't it? Chelsea, Spurs, they're all just as bad, aren't they? How's your knees? I hope you're well. Epic. Audio sounds like you're using your webcam mic instead of the one fusing in front of you. Really? Fuck me, it's an expensive fucking mic, I'll tell you. So you're not winding me up. James, I don't know what to do with it. Maybe I think it's all right. But anyway. James, in my job, health and safety construction, competence needs to have skills, knowledge, experience, expertise, attitude, behaviours and mindset. Can we realistically say Moyes has all of these? Skills, yes. Knowledge, experience, yes. Expertise, yes. Attitude and behaviour and mindset, probably not. But when it comes to the first few, skills, knowledge, experience, expertise, you can't deny he's got all that. When it comes to attitude and his behaviour and his mindset, yeah, that's probably a bit different. Mikey, even Fornals would do a job up front, to be honest. Most of his goals have come from central, up top areas. Get Emerson, Paquetá and Kudus around him. That's a good shout, It's not a bad shout. Richard, rumours that Moyes' replacement is already lined up. Any guesses as to who it may be? Well, it's not. There's no one lined up, and it is only a rumour. And yes, I believe Steidten is putting a list together, but I don't think we're going to get to see that list anytime soon, to be quite honest with you. And in all honesty, if they're going to do any business about getting a new manager in, they're going to do it on the quiet. They're going to do it without fuss. And then when it's right to be announced, which will be after the season's ended, the new manager will be announced. Yes, the only part of that question, if there is any part of it, is that Steinen's working on a replacement. Has the replacement been chosen? I dare say, like any good due diligence, we'll have a short list, and there'll be a manager at the top of that short list. I think that's natural. It's par for the course. But I don't think one's been chosen just yet. Let's scroll down. Hammerett. I bet Moyes' eventual replacement will be someone most of us haven't heard of. Think Ole Scarfi will convince the board by then step out of their comfort zone of Premier proven managers only. Really good shout, and I could see that too. I think that's a really good shout, that it could be someone that none of us have got in our minds, and all of a sudden it's going to be, Schmiegel. Lingard is still a free agent. I bet Moyes has him living under his bed. Let's scroll down. Schmiegel. Stel, do you think we'll be back in for Gabigol Barbosa? No. His contract expires next year? No. I really don't. These are part of the rumours that keep you going, isn't it? How many times have I said many times before, don't listen to the rumours, don't listen to, a lot of these rumours are related to agents going, my player's available, my player's unhappy, my player thinks he's a Premier League player, and you should look at him. And you find out that a lot of these players, there are rumours, but that's as far as it will go. Alan, and I think Barbosa was one of them. Alan, John, if Johnson was the best player in that game, then that shows me that it's Moyes that's killing him. The under-21s play a different style under a decent coach. I don't know, Alan, mate. I don't know. We've got to be honest about Ben Johnson. He's not been playing good football for quite a couple of seasons now. He had a great season, I think, about 2.5, 3 seasons ago. He was smashing it, and then the season before last, he started making mistakes, and the fans were getting on his back, etc. He's a defender. All you got to do is tell him to defend, and then this season he's not been getting a lot of game time. I don't know if that's anything to do with Moyes, to be honest with you. Bill, I did miss the joke. I'm still listening to the dodging. Oh, right, I got it. All right. It took an awful long time. How about those promising young centre backs we were linked to? Alotto Dix. You're getting involved. I mean, why? John, don't wish point deductions on anyone. We're on a watch list too. We are on a watch list too. We absolutely are. We're borderline, and every time someone says we don't spend money, we do spend money. We've just been spending money really shit over the last few years, and that's what Steinen's come in to do. Steinen's come in to sort of like manage our transfers a lot better. And you're absolutely right, John. We were on the watch list too, and I know what a lot of people are saying. That's a load of bollocks. That's just because Sullivan doesn't want to spend money. Sullivan has spent money. He just hasn't spent it very well. John laughed. When did Stoke care? I don't really, mate. I've just been polite. Well, not even really polite. Evening to you, Steve. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. James, my worry is we don't make Europe next season and our target manager won't come. Not necessarily true. What Hammerett said, there might be a manager out there that might not necessarily be, proven, one of these names that everyone's shouting out for. It might be a different type of manager who might go, I fancy managing in the Premier League. You're out of Europe? No problem. I'll get you back there in the next couple of seasons. Hey, Dad, I'd love to see an all or nothing documentary on West Ham United. Wouldn't that be great? Upton, West Ham is a continuous project. That I totally agree with. Totally. Bill, any new coach knows he's got to earn it for themselves rather than work on Moyes' coat strings. Yeah. Rani, if we do make Europe, maybe the target manager won't get a chance to come. Europe Champions League. And look, if David Moyes got us into the Champions League, are you all going to turn around and go, don't want him? Fucking shit manager. What's he done for us? What have the Romans ever done for us? Aqueducts and all that sort of stuff. What's David Moyes ever done for us? Got us out of the relegation zone. Apart from that, what has David Moyes ever done for us? Got us into Europe. Apart from that, twice. And won us a European trophy. Apart from getting us out of the relegation zone, getting us into Europe 3 seasons in a row, winning a European trophy, what has David Moyes ever done for us? Funky T, you need some soundproof still. Sounds like a little bit in a cupboard. Maybe check your audio settings. I'll have to do that, mate, because I don't know if people are winding me up or not. I can see the mic is working. It's definitely coming from the mic. So I don't know what's going on. If it ain't the bloody Wi-Fi, it's the bloody webcam. If it ain't the webcam, do you know what? I've just realised. No, it's coming from there. It is coming from there. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a quick little check, audio check. Yeah, the mic is on. No, it's not. The mic is now. Let's see. Now, I wonder if that's different. I just realised what I did. New Wi-Fi, a new webcam, got a microphone. I forgot to switch it in the settings. Oh, fuck, I fucking hate it when I keep fucking up. I hope that's better. I really do hope that's better now. Let me just double check. Audio, microphone. Yeah. So you weren't winding me, or you were winding me up about the shape of the mic. I get that. But when people were saying about the sound, I thought you were all joking. I realize now why. Hopefully it's a better sound now. Thank you, people. My apologies for having to listen to me for an hour and a half on the dodgy microphone. Now I hope it's correct. You live and learn. You live and learn. Funky T, I'm sure I've heard Moyes doesn't like loan players. He doesn't. So how many will we buy in January? Probably not many, if any. Hammers Mikey. Is Will still, I think. Is Will still in the running? He's never been in the running, and he's not in the running, and he won't be in the running. And maybe if he comes in as a number 2 under a new manager, he may be in the running in a few years, but that'll be about it. Huge. Good evening to you, mate. Still, what about Timo Werner on loan? I don't know. Why are we, is he doing, I'll be honest, I don't know how well Timo Werner is doing in the Bundesliga. Is he smashing it? Because I genuinely don't know. Hammerit, how is that right that Soucek will be and can play tomorrow, but when he returns we may have to drop him for his... No, he played today. He scored a goal today. He'll definitely play on Saturday unless anything happens with that head wound. Mark, agree still. Monty Python, what has David Moyes ever done for us? I quite enjoyed doing that little script. That was off script. Danny Bass, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so sorry, people. Oh, you see, you think you get everything right and you don't. Yeah, better, perfect, better. Told you. All right, old man. Thank you. That's better. Now turn it up. Better, but quieter. Hopefully it's not quieter now. It's a bit, thank you. You are R5, mate. Clear and readable. It was fine before, but this is better. Good. Thank you. Feels like a family here. Someone go and make me a cup of tea, will you? Christopher, some people don't know when they're born. The sound is fine, to be honest. Much better when you changed it, but it's fine either way. Carry on with Thank you. Alan, Funky Tea. Lingard was on loan and Moyes loved him. Yeah. Different though, isn't it? Because he was one of Moyes' thingies, wasn't he? Now you have to start the show from start again. Sound perfect now. So yeah. Thank you. Mike, nice now. Thank you. John, glad you sorted out the mic. Here's hoping you don't lose your voice to a sore throat. Voice of an angel, voice of a Dalek with COVID-4. Right, let's get into team selections because I know you're dying to see what ideas I've got. So, David Moyes has got options, okay? It's not just about Danny Ings. In fact, I'm not so sure it'll be Danny Ings will be the first choice, to be quite honest with you. Now, if David Moyes does go for Danny Ings, then he's got to realise, he's got to know that he's got to support Danny Ings up front. He knows it's not working to have Danny Ings alone. So
here's the first option. I'm not saying this is what's going to be. I'm going to give you several ideas of what options David Moyes might have when it comes to team selections. If Jarrod Bowen stays out injured, we know Antonio will be as well. So here's the first option. The first option is he could go for a 5-3-2 formation, with Antonio out and Bowen out. I'm also speculating what he might do with Soucek and Coufal. So you can see I'm giving two options there. So first option is to give Ings some support up front. If he's going to give him some support up front, he could go in order to try and find some kind of balance. You can turn this round. You can change it. You could put Paquetá in there instead of Kudus up front with Ings, something like that. Maybe play Kudus out wide or something like that. So Areola in goal, we know that. And then when it comes to right back stroke right wing back, if he does punish Coufal, you could possibly see him playing Kehrer in that role. Three at the back, Mavropanos, Zuma, and a Gerd, which will help Zuma. How many people have been saying that Zuma was awful in his return game? He was slow. He was terribly slow. And as we all know, every time Zuma comes back from injury, it takes him a while to get back into some kind of match fitness. So a 5-3-2 could possibly be an option. I'm also looking at the centre, the Alvarez role, where, either Soucek or Alvarez. And I'm saying or Alvarez because if Alvarez comes back and he's jet lagged and he's tired and all that sort of stuff, you could potentially put Soucek in there. He's not an ideal replacement for Alvarez. I get it. But I'm just giving you sort of options. So maybe in order to play Ings, if he decided that Ings was the player he wants to start with, then he knows he's got to support Ings. And maybe you could take out the players, just look at the formation. He may decide to go for a 5-3-2. And then, okay, if he sticks with his 4-2-3-1, we've got other options again. Okay, so this time round, again, I'm disputing whether he will play whether he'll play Coufal or not. Let's say, for argument's sake, he does. The four at the back, the usual: Zuma, Gerd, and Emerson. Two in midfield. Not that I agree with it, but two holding midfielders: Ward-Prowse and Alvarez. And then you can bring in some of the players that have been kind of fringe players. Potentially, this is again if Bowen is still out injured. By the way, he could put Maxwell Cornet out on the right, and then play Soucek, Paquetá, and Kudus up front. That could possibly work. We know that Maxwell Cornet has played in that position before. You could, of course, switch that round. So you could, of course, have it in a different way, where you put Benrahma on the right if he's not going to play Cornet. Benrahma's played on the right. I don't think that's ideally his best position. I'm not so sure that out on the left is his best position. We kind of know that in the middle would be even better for someone like Benrahma. But if you put Benrahma in the middle, then you can have a problem sort of out wide. I know Paquetá isn't great out on the left either. He's decent, but I'm playing him much more advanced rather than a sort of a winger. So you could have Benrahma. You could either have Cornet there, or you could have Benrahma there. You could potentially, sticking with a 4-2-3-1, have Cornet up front, who, again, we know has done it. He did it for Burnley in the season that he was there, played up front. What did he score? 10 goals in a struggling team, something like that. So you could have Cornet there and leave Kudus out on the right. That could work as well. And then, of course, the one that a lot of us want, a lot of fans would like to see, is play Mbama up front. Don't start with Ings, but play him up front. But my feeling is he's highly unlikely to use the youngster from the start. As much as a lot of fans think he should, I don't think he will play Mbama from the start. There's another option. You can go with a false number 9. You can go with a 4-3-3. Again, you could either play Benrahma, or you could play, or you could put Cornet there instead of Benrahma. Alongside Kudus in the middle, Cornet one side, or Benrahma one side, Paquetá on one side. Pack out the midfield with Soucek, Ward-Prowse, and Alvarez in the middle. So you could do that. So he's got options. So you could see only one of my options includes Danny Ings to start. And I think Moyes will know, I cannot play. I know it's not going to work. He might, if he does play Danny Ings in a 4-2-3-1 and think it's going to work, he's going to have to change it very fast on Saturday against Burnley, because I know he will see that it won't work. And I know a lot of people will say, told you so, told you so. So I think, this is the only option where I think playing Danny Ings could possibly work, is if you give him someone alongside him who's going to support him. And that could be Paquetá, or it could be Kudus, where you could even have Soucek further forward as well, by the way. But I don't think that works as well. You need someone that's going to feed Danny Ings to his feet. And the likes of Paquetá and Kudus are the kind of players that have the capacity, the sort of the playing skills to be able to play the ball to Danny Ings' feet. That might work. But as I said, that's the only option that I think would make it work, or potentially work, for Danny Ings. So the other options, use Maxwell Cornet, use him out wide maybe, or use Ben Rama out wide with Kudus up top, or you put Cornet up top and keep Kudus out on the right, or you go for Mbama and play him up top. But I think that's the least likely. Or you could just pack out the midfield, whether it be Ben Rama alongside Kudus and Paquetá, or Cornet alongside Kudus and Paquetá. You could potentially play a 4-3-3. So let me see what you guys think, because there are different options. There are other options to David Moyes playing Danny Ings, but I do think if he does go, he may change the formation. Do I think he'll go with a 4-4-2 to accommodate Danny Ings? Maybe, but I doubt it. I think what he'll be thinking is, rightly or wrongly, what he'll be thinking is, all right, I'm accommodating Danny. I need to play someone up front with him. Oh, that means I'm going to shore up the back and play 5 there. Now, we could be overrunning midfield with a 5-3-2, quite possibly, but you get your wing backs to push up. That will make it more difficult for the opposition. It's an option, and it's the only option I can sort of see, playing another player alongside Danny Ings that will get Danny Ings playing. I can't see it working otherwise. Let's scroll down. Alan, Moyes will play Soucek as a false 9 and tell him to start front and take it easy. Option. Rani, agree, Ben, but just saying it would be hard to release him if he delivered that. Talking about Moyes, if he delivered that, yeah. Clive, what was that? Very funny. Hamrick, question. Can you check when you get a chance if Bong has been accidentally blocked as he can't join the stream? I certainly haven't blocked anyone, but I will have a look after the show. I do apologize for that. As far as I'm aware, no one's been blocked, but I will try and check it after the show. Alan, against Perth Glory and Spurs in pre-season, he played Ings and Mbama up front. Burnley is a chance to try that again as they both scored. Good shout. Yeah, fair play. Good shout. Do I think that that's likely to happen? If he played both Ings and Mbama up front, it means dropping one of the midfielders. And I wouldn't know out of Kudus, Soucek, James Ward-Prowse, Alvarez and Paquetá, out of those 5, you're going to have to drop one of them. That will be difficult to know who he might drop. Kera for Alvarez. People have been saying that quite a lot throughout the season. Good option, yeah. Adam, that's why Stell expects to win every game, plays 13 players. Don't start winding me up. I'm not going to count them. Oh, look, I was giving you options. That's not 13 players. Either or. Don't wind me up. Let's scroll down. James, you're here. Even still, people. How are you? Someone told me you couldn't get in. Was it you that didn't pay the money on your meter tonight? Brendan, rumor has it that Connor Coventry will be playing against Cullen. Whoa, interesting. Doubt it. Haven't seen Connor Coventry play a minute of senior team football. Flameur, give him to you, mate. You're very welcome, no matter how late you are. Ben H, good evening to you. Company will know exact team formation and Moyes will play. In fact, anyone who has half a clue will know. What I don't know is what was said earlier on. Now that we've got these injuries, Moyes has got to mix it up. He's got to change things. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Hamret, I don't think Moyes will out Cornet in the same time as Mbama if he gets any minutes. No, it'll be Cornet on, or not. Cornet on the naughty step. I don't think that is true, to be honest with you. Cornet had a serious injury last season. It's taken him a long time to get through that, to get over that. Now, I think with the players that we bought, Cornet's sort of like, he's not near first choice. I haven't even included, if you noticed, several other players. People talking about Fornals and stuff like that. It could be that Fornals could start ahead of Cornet. There's a concern about Cornet and his injury and whether he's really overcome it completely. Funky T, just looking at all your options, then recalling things this time last year. Oh, how blessed we are now with a great squad. It's a decent squad. There's some players that haven't really been playing that well, but on the whole, it's a decent squad. Upton. Were Benrahma and Cornet on international duty? No, neither of them were. Cornet wasn't called up, and Benrahma apparently fell out with the Algerian coach and wasn't selected. Who else we've got? WHUFC, good evening to you. I think he'll do a midfield of Ward-Prowse, Alvarez and Paquetá, then a front three of Kudus on the right, Bowen up top and Benrahma on the left. Don't disagree with that. If Bowen is fit, then I 100% agree with you. All those options I've given you are just in case if Bowen is not fit. Ben again. Moyes, Crystal Ball, Areola, Coufal, Zuma, Agurd, Emerson, Soucek, Ward-Prowse, Paquetá, Kudus, Benny and Ings, which unless he plays Kudus up close to him, you might be right, but it probably won't work. Rani, we will score from set pieces against Burnley, but we'll probably concede 3-1 to West Ham. We haven't kept a clean sheet nearly all season. Sorry I'm late, but we'll do a review, loving it and all that. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. I'm glad that you managed to get on. Upton, has Cornet reached his sorbet and been dropped? Well, no. It's about, I was told that Cornet's injury was a weird one and he hasn't fully recovered from it. And even though he's getting some game time, it's being managed carefully. So God knows what on earth it was that, could his career be over? It's just treading on, I don't know. Mark, just a thought. Benny, Paquetá, Kudus, Ward-Prowse, Soucek, Alvarez, Coufal, Zuma, Agurd, Emerson and Areola. Not bad. I think that kind of lineup could definitely work. Flemmer. Excuse me. Still, I'm tired of talking about Moyes. All I can say is tonight is since 2 years ago, winter window, when Moyes did not buy anyone since you know what happened. Please don't mention the plastic cup. Yeah, absolutely frustrating. And I think with Tim Steiden here, I don't think we're going to go through a transfer window without getting someone in, even if it's a loan signing. Upton, Moyes don't do fringe players. He's going to probably have no choice. John, Cornet did not have an injury. He was doing OU degree in France. He had an injury, mate. He and it was pretty bad as well. Cornet is the best 14 since Henry. Les, less grumpy old Ben. Good evening to you, mate. I've been watching for 30 minutes, 7:30 a.m. in warm and sunny Philippines. 25. Oh, mate, welcome, and I hope you're well. And thank you for joining all the way from Philippines. And please do hit that subscribe button if you've enjoyed the last half an hour. Well, if you enjoyed all of it, WHU would like to see Cornet and Mumbama get a run in. George, good evening to you. Mumbama should start up front, not Ings. I don't disagree with that, but I think when it comes to Moyes making choices, I think you're likely to see Kudus up front more than you're going to see Ings or Mumbama. But I get what you're saying. If it was a choice, then I think a lot of people would prefer Mumbama. Hammerett, Ings will go to a struggling Premier League side in January with a big pay drop, play every match within reason and become their biggest goal scorer. Back to two keepers on the bench. Doesn't look like it. That's it. I've caught up and we've done 1 hour, 44 minutes. Don't disagree with that. Ings needs to be gone, but try getting a buyer for him. Right. That's it, people. Thank you so much. Really sorry it took me an hour and a half to realize I was talking through the microphone on the webcam rather than microphone in front of me. I kept seeing the things going. I thought, hey, it's all right, but I get it now. I didn't change it in the settings. Hope that didn't ruin your enjoyment of the show. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all, as usual, for getting involved in the chat. Really appreciated. By the way, for those of you who don't know yet, I've reintroduced the West Ham dailies. So do look out for those. They normally will come out in the morning, but obviously they'll be pre-recorded and you can watch them anytime. And it will be about specific stories that are out in social media and the press, etc. So not necessarily I might give an opinion, but it will be more about breaking news is this has happened and so on and so forth. So do look out for them. They're short. They'll be like 15-minute, 20-minute shows at most. So do, in your lunch hour or whilst you're shaving in the morning, etc. Do put that on when it comes up. Thank you all for watching. Have a really, really great week. Can't wait for this effing international break to be over. As I've said before, they should do something about it. Get all the international games in 1 month or 6 weeks or an 8-week period throughout the year. Get them out that effing way so that we can get on with our proper football. Because I can't wait for the Burnley game coming up this Saturday. But thank you for watching. Have a great week. And I will see all of you very, very soon.